In this video, we're going to be talking about how to do the FunAdv Feature experience feature image. So a featured image is basically what shows up in these thumbnails. So you can see that there happens to be the people in the wigs and the person swinging from the tree and then the kayaking people and so on and so forth. So that's what we call a feature image. And feature images we want them to be fixed height, fixed width, because we want to be able to make sure that the rows remain even. If the images are not the same height and width, then you're going to get a very uneven sort of row. So right now we've got everything lining up perfectly, and the reason for that is because we have formatted the images a specific way. If you haven't already done so, I highly recommend watching the introductory video to editing Photoshop files, and that will introduce you to Photopea, which is the program that we use online to edit photos. I'm just going to quickly go in and go into File, Open. I know that the file happens to be on my desktop. Your PSD files hopefully are on your hard drive by this time, or they are still in Dropbox. Again, and that's in the introductory video. So I'm going to go and find my FunAdv feature image, and I'm going to open it up. So basically, as you can see, the canvas opens up and I have a variety of layers that happen to open on the right-hand side. I can turn on and off these layers as needed to reveal a photo underneath. And this basically has pretty much most of the photos that I had been playing with to get the original thumbnails in place. I'm going to do a practice example of this. So what I'm going to do is I'm now going to open up another photo. So let's say we want to replace the kayak and chaos image. If I wanted to do that, I would need to go and find the image that I am working with. I know it's somewhere. Well, apparently, I don't know what it's called. Oh, it's called Inquire. All right, so it's on my desktop. Open. There we go. So this is an image that you provided me, and essentially what we have is a bunch of people in kayaks. And so let's say we want to use this as our thumbnail image or our feature image for our FunAdv Feature. So essentially what we're going to do is we're going to create an image that replaces this one. So first things first, what I normally do is I usually show you that we have the layered Photoshop file, and then we have the file that we will want to bring into the layered Photoshop file. So first things first, I'm going to go into image size so that I can see what size I'm dealing with when it comes to photos. So I now know that I'm going to be dealing with a 640 by 480 image size, and that's exactly what I want to know. So then essentially what we're going to do is we're now going to check the file size on, sorry, the image size on the other image. And we can see that it's 4,000 by 3,000. So essentially you can obviously see that there's a massive discrepancy between the files. So technically I could select all and copy and paste into this layered file if I wanted to. The fact of the matter is that it would just be really cumbersome to try and resize. So I'm going to get this file to be a little bit more manageable in size. So let's say that we want to resize this image to something a little bit more manageable. So if we were dealing with 640 by 480 as the thumbnail size or the featured image size, let's go with, well, technically what we could do is 640. So if we wanted to do it that way and wanted to use the entire image, which is well within our reach, we're more than welcome to do that. Then we just put in 640 by 480 and it happens to actually be aspect ratio. The way I did that, just so that I'll go back to the original. So the original was 4,000 by 3,000. I'm going to change 4,000 to 640, and I'm going to click in the gray space, and height will automatically adjust itself because we have the keep aspect ratio checkbox checked. So let's actually I'm going to want to do something a little bit different to show you a couple of different techniques. So rather than doing 640, which would be absolutely perfect, and that is bar none basically what you need to do, let's say I want to play around with the image just a little bit more. So instead of 640, I'm going to do, let's say, 750. And then I'm going to click in the gray space. And now I know my image is going to be larger than the actual canvas size, which is fine. And I'm going to click OK. So now it's resized itself. We're going to be starting to use keyboard shortcuts. So at this point, I'm going to do a Control A, which selects all, and a Control C, which copies it to a clipboard. From here, I'm going to move over to my layered Photoshop file, and I will paste it in, and it's going to paste somewhere in this lineup. And essentially, I believe it's going to paste just above the event picture coming soon, if I'm not mistaken, because that's the one that's got the darker gray. So that's the one that's active right now. And then we're going to do a Control V. And there we go. So essentially what we have now is a photo that is larger than its canvas size, but we do have the ability now to sort of move it around if we want to. So one of the ways to do this, if we wanted to sort of alter it in any way, shape, or form, is by making sure that we have the arrow, that top arrow clicked with the north, south, east, west sign, as well as checkbox the transformational controls. And this will actually show you what part of the image is available and what part of the image is hanging over. So from here, I can left click and drag the image as necessary. Which might work better for us. We get a little bit of more of the kayaks, a little bit less of the buoy. So that may actually work quite well for us. The alternative to that is if we do want to have a little bit more of the buoy, what we can do is use the handlebars on the top left, right, bottom left, right corners. Hold your shift key down and drag. So left click and drag so that it actually resizes the image. So at this point, technically, we could get it down to 640 by 480 if we really wanted to. Let's say I'll just resize it a little bit. I'm not going to resize it a lot. So there we go. We get a little bit more of the buoy in place. And if you want, you can always use your arrow keys on your keyboard for a little bit more fine tuning, up, down, left, right. So once we have the image that we want, then essentially what we're going to do is we're going to do File, Export As, and in this case we're going to go with a JPEG. Any image that happens to be a photo will always be saved out as a JPEG. That's just the way images or photos compress much better in a JPEG file format. So because this is a photo, we're going to go with the JPEG. Quality, I always recommend doing anywhere between 50 to 70. So let's do 60. You'll notice that the percentage sign, I deleted the percentage sign. So if you want to have that come back and then see this little guy move over because it was at 50, click in the gray space again, and you'll notice that this little bar slide, or this little dot, slid a little bit further over to the right, and the percentage sign came back. So all I'd have to do is click Save. And that basically asks me to save it to my hard drive. Once I've saved it to my hard drive, I'm not sure if it's going to be obvious or not, excuse me, but the file name is actually the default file name of the PSD file. So it's not very specific, it's actually incredibly generic. So one of the things that we will want to do is rename that file so that it is something that's more relevant to us and will be easier found in the media library at a later date. So I'm going to go back to my desktop. I'm going to go to my downloaded files, which is where I know where it is. And there's my FunAdv. It is a feature image, so that's perfectly fine. That doesn't bother me. But I would probably give it kayaking or something along those lines to let me know what program it was referencing. And that's essentially how you go about editing a Photoshop file and getting the FunAdv thumbnail created.